Video 21, Part 9b of 25, Inputs to the Sequence Activities Process. The purpose of this video is to develop a WBS to present the inputs to the sequence activities process. The sequence activities process is the third process in the project schedule management knowledge area and is related to the planning process group. Please click the like button. Subscribe to my channel and share with others. Thank you. The first input to the sequence activities process is the project management plan. Here's why the project management plan is a critical input to the sequence activities process. 1. Schedule management plan. Project management plan defines how activities will be sequenced, including methodologies, tools, and level of detail required. Project management plan specifies whether to use precedence diagramming method, dependency determination, or other techniques. 2. Scope baseline, which includes project scope statement, WBS, WBS dictionary. The work breakdown structure and WBS dictionary provide the list of activities to be sequenced. The project management plan ensures alignment between activity sequencing and project scope. 3. Other relevant components, if applicable. First, risk management plan. This plan may influence sequencing, such as high-risk activities might be scheduled earlier. Second, change management plan. This plan helps account for potential changes in dependencies. Third, enterprise environmental factors and organizational process assets. These components may influence sequencing decisions, such as company policies and historical data. How can poor project management plan analysis harm the PMBOK sequence activities process? Poor project management plan analysis can significantly harm the PMBOK sequence activities process, leading to inefficiencies, delays, and even project failure. And the reasons are: 1. Inaccurate or missing dependencies or logical relationships. If the schedule management plan is poorly analyzed, the team may fail to consider mandatory or discretionary dependencies. This can result in the following impacts. First, incorrect finish to start to start, finish to finish, and start to finish relationships. Second, activities may be sequenced in an illogical order, causing rework. As an example, starting software coding before finalizing requirements. In this case, we should have a finish to start relationship. 2. Unrealistic activity sequencing due to poor scope baseline. If the WBS dictionary is incomplete or misunderstood, we can have the following impacts. First, missing critical activities in sequencing. Second, overlapping or redundant tasks due to poor work package breakdown. Third, for example, we may have forgotten to sequence, obtain permits before build in a construction project. 3. Ignoring external constraints and assumptions. A poor analysis of enterprise environmental factors or assumptions log can result in, for example, failure to account for regulatory approvals, vendor lead times, or resource availability. As a practical example, we could sequence the installation of equipment before confirming delivery dates. 4. Lack of risk consideration leading to fragile sequences. If the risk management plan is neglected, we may have the following impacts. First, high-risk activities aren't prioritized early, increasing delays. Second, lack of contingency buffers in the schedule, such as not accounting for construction weather delays. 5. Inconsistent use of sequencing methods. Unclear schedule management plan guidelines on sequencing techniques, such as PDM, ADM, etc., can result in the following impacts. First, Mixed methodologies causing confusion, such as mixing agile and waterfall sequencing. Second, incompatible software tools generating faulty Gantt charts. 6. Poor change management leading to uncontrolled resequencing. Weak change management plan integration could result in the following impacts. First, unapproved changes disrupt sequences, such as client requests adding unplanned tasks mid-sequence. Second, lack of version control in schedule updates. 7. Misalignment with resource and stakeholder plans. Poor integration with resource management plan or stakeholder engagement plan could result in the following impacts. First, sequencing conflicts with resource availability, such as assigning tasks before key team members are free. Second, critical stakeholders, such as inspectors, not available when needed. In conclusion, the project management plan is essential to the sequence activities process because it provides the framework, constraints, and guidelines needed to establish accurate and efficient activity sequences. Without it, the project schedule could be flawed, leading to delays and inefficiencies. Final consequences of poor PMP analysis on sequencing. First, delays. Critical path extends due to incorrect dependencies. Second, cost overruns due to rework from poor sequencing burns budget. Third, stakeholder dissatisfaction due to missed milestones erode trust. Fourth, project failure. In extreme cases, the entire schedule collapses. As a final message, we have that without the project management plan, the sequence activities process would lack structure, leading to potential misalignment with project objectives, unrealistic dependencies, or inefficient scheduling. Proper sequencing ensures logical workflow, minimizes delays, and supports critical path analysis. Second input to the sequence activities process is the project documents. Question: how important is the input of project documents info to the sequence activities process? Here's why the input of project documents info is quite important to the sequence activities process in project management, particularly within the project schedule management knowledge area. 1. Activity attributes. Provide details about each activity, such as dependencies, constraints and leads, lags, which are crucial for sequencing. 2. Activity list. Contains all identified activities that need to be sequenced. 3. Assumption log. Helps identify constraints or dependencies that may affect sequencing. 4. Milestone list. Highlights key deliverables or deadlines that influence the order of activities. 5. Project scope statement. Clarifies deliverables and constraints that impact sequencing decisions. 6. Risk register. Identifies risks that may require adjustments to the schedule, such as high-risk activities scheduled in advance. How can poor project documents analysis harm the sequence activities process? Here's how a poor analysis of project documents during the sequence activities process can lead to significant scheduling issues, inefficiencies, and project failures. 1. Incorrect or missing dependencies. If activity attributes or assumption logs are poorly analyzed, mandatory dependencies may be overlooked, while false discretionary ones may be assumed. This can result in a situation where activities may be sequenced in the wrong order, causing rework, delays, or even project shutdowns. As an example, we can have walls being building before the foundation is complete due to a missed dependency. 2. Unrealistic schedules. If the milestone list or project scope statement is not reviewed properly, important deadlines or constraints may be overlooked. This can result in a situation where the schedule becomes unattainable, leading to missed deadlines and unhappy stakeholders. For example, A regulatory approval milestone may be missed because it is not linked to dependent tasks. 3. Resource conflicts and bottlenecks. Poor analysis of resource requirements, such as in the activity attributes or risk register, can lead to overlapping resource demands. This can result in a situation where critical resources, such as people and equipment, may be overallocated, causing delays. For example, two high-priority tasks requiring the same crane may be scheduled simultaneously. 4. Increased risks and rework. If the risk register is not properly assessed, high-risk activities may be sequenced without mitigation buffers. This can result in a situation where risks materialize, forcing unplanned changes and rework. For example, we may have a high-risk procurement activity being scheduled late, delaying the entire project when issues arise with the supplier. 5. Inaccurate network diagrams. Incorrect inputs, such as incomplete activity lists, lead to incorrect relationships with the precedence diagram method. This can result in a situation where the critical path may be calculated incorrectly, masking the true duration of the project. For example, we may have a missing finish-start relationship, causing an activity to start too early, wasting resources. 6. Poor communication and stakeholder misalignment. If assumptions or scope documents are misinterpreted, stakeholders may have different expectations. This can result in a situation where disputes arise over priority sequencing, leading to conflicts and scope creep. For example, we may have a situation where the client expects Phase 2 to begin immediately after Phase 1, but the team sequences a gap for testing. In conclusion, while the schedule management plan and enterprise environmental factors also play a role, Project Documents Info provides the detailed data needed to sequence activities effectively. Without accurate inputs, the sequencing could be flawed, leading to delays, resource conflicts, or rework. As a final message, poor document analysis in sequence activities not only impacts the schedule, but also results in cost overruns, delays, and quality issues. A rigorous review of inputs is essential to a reliable project schedule. The third input to the sequence activities process is enterprise environmental factors. How important is this input to the overall process? Here's why enterprise environmental factors play a significant role in the sequence activities process in project schedule management. 1. Influence on dependencies and sequencing options. Enterprise environmental factors, such as organizational policies, government regulations, industry standards, and market conditions, can determine mandatory dependencies or influence discretionary dependencies. For example, regulatory requirements may dictate a specific order of activities, such as pre-construction safety inspections. 2. Availability of tools and systems. An organization's scheduling software, such as Microsoft Project and Primavera, and project management methodologies, such as Agile and Waterfall, impact how activities are sequenced. For example, Agile teams may use Kanban boards instead of traditional precedence diagrams. 3. Organizational structure and culture. First, a matrix versus functional organization affects how resources are allocated, influencing scheduling decisions. Second, stakeholder expectations, such as a preference for fast tracking, may lead to adjusted activity sequences. 4. External factors. Market conditions, supply chain delays, or legal constraints may force rescheduling. For example, a supplier's delivery deadline may require a successor activity to be postponed. 5. Historical data and lessons learned. Records from previous projects help identify optimal scheduling patterns and avoid past mistakes. How can poor enterprise environmental factors analysis harm the sequence activities process? Here's how a poor analysis of enterprise environmental factors in the sequence activities process can lead to significant project risks, inefficiencies, and failures. 1. Incorrect or infeasible dependencies. One problem is that mandatory dependencies can be ignored, such as regulatory approvals required prior to construction. Another problem is that discretionary dependencies can be set based on assumptions rather than real constraints, such as assuming a supplier can deliver on time without verifying delivery dates. All of these situations can result in schedule delays, rework, or legal noncompliance. 2. Unrealistic schedule due to resource constraints. Ignoring organizational resource availability, such as shared teams and equipment shortages, can lead to: first, overlapping activities that cannot be performed due to capacity constraints. Second, bottlenecks where critical resources are over-allocated. All of these situations can result in missed deadlines, cost overruns, and team burnout. 3. Failure to consider external risks. Inadequate analysis of market conditions, supply chain risks, or geopolitical factors can lead to: first, sequencing activities assuming ideal conditions, such as no material shipment delays. Second, not creating contingency reserves for high-risk dependencies. All of these situations can result in interrupted workflows, project downtime, and project delays. 4. Inefficient use of tools and methodologies. If the project team does not consider company-approved scheduling software or project management methodologies, they may: first, use inappropriate tools, such as Excel instead of Primavera, for complex projects. Second, incorrectly apply Agile versus Waterfall sequencing logic. All of these situations can result in low visibility, inaccurate critical path analysis, and misalignment with stakeholders. 5. Cultural or stakeholder misalignment. Ignoring organizational culture, such as resistance to change and approval hierarchies, can lead to: first, unrealistic sequencing, such as assuming fast approvals when bureaucracy causes delays. Second, conflicts with stakeholders who expect a different workflow. All these situations can result in slow decision-making, scope creep, and stakeholder dissatisfaction. 6. Disregarding historical data and industry standards. Failure to review lessons learned from previous projects or industry best practices can result in: first, repeating sequencing mistakes, such as not accounting for weather delays during construction. Second, ignoring proven logical relationships between activities. All of these situations can result in avoidable risks, wasted time, and cost inefficiencies. Finally, enterprise environmental factors provide critical contextual information that shapes the logical order of activities, ensuring that the schedule is realistic and complies with organizational and external constraints. As a final thought, we have that an inadequate analysis of the enterprise environmental factors in the sequencing activities compromises the entire schedule, leading to unrealistic schedules, wasted resources, and project failure. As real-world consequences, we may have: example 1. A manufacturing project sequences the installation of machinery before safety inspections, such as ignoring regulatory enterprise environmental factors, which can result in government fines and work stoppage. Example 2. A software project assumes that all developers are available for parallel testing, such as ignoring the enterprise environmental factors of resources, which can result in critical path extensions due to bottlenecks. As a final message, we have that a disciplined review of the enterprise environmental factors ensures a logical, executable, and resilient project plan. Ignoring them can lead to unrealistic schedules, delays, or conflicts. The fourth input to the sequence activities process is organizational process assets. How important is this input to the overall process? Here's why organizational process assets are so important to the sequence activities process in project management. 1. Historical information and lessons learned. Records of previous projects, templates, and lessons learned help identify dependencies, sequencing approaches, and potential risks. For example, if a previous project was delayed due to incorrect sequencing, the team can adjust the current plan. 2. Policies, procedures, and guidelines. Organizations may have standardized sequencing methods, such as mandatory use of the precedence diagramming method or agile workflows. For example, a company may require specific approval steps before certain activities begin. 3. Templates and tools. Predefined network diagram templates or project management software such as Microsoft Project and Primavera can streamline sequencing. For example, a template might outline common relationships between activities, such as finish to start, finish to finish, start to start, and start to finish. 4. Established scheduling methodologies. Some organizations require certain scheduling techniques, such as the critical path method and agile sprints, to influence the sequencing of activities. 5. Knowledge repositories and best practices. Industry standards, such as PMBOK and Prince2, or organizational best practices guide the sequencing logic. How can an inadequate analysis of organizational process assets harm the sequence activities process? Here's how an inadequate analysis of organizational process assets can significantly harm the sequence activities process, leading to inefficiencies, delays, and even project failure. 1. Inaccurate or missing dependencies. Without using historical data or models, the team may overlook mandatory dependencies or incorrectly identify discretionary dependencies. This can result in incorrect sequencing of activities, causing rework or bottlenecks. For example, a construction project may pour concrete before preliminary piping is complete because previous lessons about dependency risks were ignored. 2. Inefficient sequencing methods. Ignoring established scheduling methodologies, such as the precedence diagramming method and agile workflows, can lead to inconsistent or suboptimal sequencing. This can result in longer project durations due to avoidable inefficiencies. For example, a software team manually sequences tasks instead of using a proven agile sprint backlog model, leading to missed deliverables. 3. Repeated mistakes from past projects. Inadequate lessons learned analysis means that previous sequencing mistakes, such as overlapping critical path activities, are repeated. This can result in increased risk of delays, cost overruns, or quality issues. For example, an event planning team fails to review a previous project issue with vendor dependencies, causing a last-minute delay in preparation. 4. Non-compliance with organizational standards. Disregarding company policies, such as phase gate approvals and mandatory review steps, can lead to non-compliant sequencing. This can result in rework, stakeholder dissatisfaction, or contractual penalties. For example, a pharmaceutical project skips a regulatory audit step because the team failed to verify organizational process assets, resulting in compliance failures. 5. Lack of tool optimization. Failure to use organizational templates or scheduling software such as MS Project and Jira leads to manual and error-prone scheduling. This can result in inconsistent documentation, miscommunication, and version control issues. For example, a team creates a network diagram from scratch instead of adapting a proven template, introducing logic errors. 6. Ineffective risk management. Organizational process assets often contain risk registers that highlight sequencing risks, such as weather delays during construction. Ignoring these risks leads to unmitigated threats. This can result in unplanned disruptions and schedule slippage. For example, a logistics project fails to consider historical port congestion data, delaying material shipments. In conclusion, organizational process assets provide critical institutional knowledge that enhances accuracy and efficiency in the sequence activities process. A project manager should always review relevant organizational process assets to avoid repeating past mistakes and align with organizational standards. Here are some impacts of ignoring organizational process assets. First, increased risk of errors, such as missing dependencies and incorrect logic. Second, inefficient sequencing, such as reinventing methods instead of utilizing proven methods. Third, non-compliance with organizational or regulatory requirements. The take-home message is that inadequate analysis of organizational process assets undermines the accuracy, efficiency, and reliability of the activity sequencing process, increasing the likelihood of schedule failures. Leveraging organizational process assets is critical to evidence-based scheduling. Finishing this video, we will have in the next videos. 1. Creation of WBS for different projects using WBS Schedule Pro. 2. Examples of project plans using MS Project. And many other videos. Don't forget to give a thumbs up if you liked this video and want us to continue with new topics. Subscribe to the channel. All content is free. You can also comment suggesting topics you would like to see on this channel. Thank you.